everybody, and we're back for episode 3 of the Fiend Cave.
That's
What
right.
is going on, man?
Not a whole lot. It's a lovely Saturday, and we're going to try something a little different today because, hey, why not? We're experimenting with this. We're going to do 5 today. Rather than two fives, we're going to do 1 5. See if maybe that might be a little shorter show. See if, we can still be entertaining.
Yeah, we're going to do a top 5, obviously, and some good stuff. We're going to try to condense it down to, maybe below an hour. That way it's a little easier to listen for you guys, whether, how you listen to it on YouTube or whatever, so.
Yeah, and
So,
basically, just basically taking some recommendations. There was some mention. Maybe we were going a little too long on the other ones, so I'm going to kind of cut it down a little bit, see how that goes. If it's, if we're condensed too much and we're not having a good time with it, we'll do what we want because it's our show.
Yeah.
But, it's worth a chance, or it's worth a try.
Yeah, we're, like you said, we're always trying new stuff, so it's like it's only our 3rd episode, so
Right. Before we start, I just want to say a big shout out to Kyle Albee. Even though we already had our choice for the top 5 today, it was cool that he actually posted his top 5, or more like top 10. But right on, Kyle, if you're ever in Ohio, you're going to be on the podcast with us sometime.
yeah, you have a signed spot for an episode on the Fiend Cave podcast, so that's awesome. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah, we sent out a thing, on Facebook, just real quick, asking for opinions. We got some good ones,
Yeah,
which
totally.
we'll probably use for some future episodes.
Absolutely.
To be honest.
And if we use your top 5 list, you're definitely going to get a shout out.
yeah, we'll give you a shout out.
We're all about the shout outs
Right.
here.
We might even do like a goofy photo or something like that, or maybe a drawing. Who knows? So
We could even call you while we're podcasting.
yeah, we'll call you up on the phone. We'll put you on speakerphone or something, and
Yeah.
sing you happy birthday or something. I don't know, something like that. So, but yeah. So episode 3, and thanks for everybody for tuning in so far. I mean, the first podcast roughly, because I put the first one up on my personal YouTube, and then I made the Fiend Cave pod page, so to speak. And we got pretty much like 100 views going, and that's pretty badass.
That's
for
awesome.
That's for the first episode. Second one's still still going up, so that's really awesome.
And the second one's only been up a week, and
it's only been up a week. And
I've heard some things from a few people that it was not coming up in their feeds on YouTube, even though they subscribed. So might be some issues there, but it's up, so you can find it.
If you can't get a hold of it, let us know, and we'll like shoot you a link, or we'll do something like that. Or I'll even send you, I'll send you an email, let you download it, or have the MP3 if you want to.
Totally.
Which I also want to do something with the MP3s. Eventually, I'm just not sure where to put them or whatnot.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Anyway, so do you want to jump right into this, or do you?
Sure.
Wanna...
I mean, let's just start off by giving a little intro to what we're doing today. We were talking about the next list to do something we could do. This one was initially like, okay, well, let's do 2 5s, and then we had something come up, and we're like, let's try to record something, but let's do a short one today. So we both basically agreed that this was a really good one because music is a very big part of both of our lives. Richard's a metalhead. I'm one of those people that's just like, if I hear a song, it just automatically in my head gets stuck with whatever vision I have. Like, every time I write a scene when I'm writing, I have music playing, or I have like a thought of like how a song should fit into something.
Well, and it's the same way whenever I draw or I paint or even write too. It's like whatever atmosphere I have going on, whatever music's going on, it sets the tone and stuff, and it's awesome. And for whether it's film, TV, or whatever, music is a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
So,
So, without any further ado, with that little intro, our top 5 list is the top 5 movie soundtracks.
Now, this was a hard one for me, and I'm sure it was for you too, just doing top 5, because there's a lot of good ones.
There's some really good ones there. I mean, what's funny is 9 times out of 10 when we do any of these top 5 lists, I know my number one within like a few seconds. It's working out the ones working up to
like
number
your
one that are the tough ones.
It's like it's like okay, what are the other ones I can put in, and which even harder, which the ones I have to eliminate.
Yeah, totally. Now, I will say, at least on my list, some of these movies aren't necessarily like my favorite movies at all, but their soundtracks are phenomenal. It's really funny actually because some of these movies are total crap, but they had an amazing soundtrack that just like stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, you throw a song in there, and it's like even like you said, even if the movie is crap, it's like, hey, I really like that song, and I'm gonna go check it out, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify, or go buy the MP3 or whatever, Yeah, it's whatever.
So yeah, without any further ado, so we're gonna do our top 5 list. I think I started last time, so I'll let you start with your number 5, and we'll go back and forth like we do every time.
Okay.
And just go from there. So.
Okay, so we're gonna. We'll start with me. Top 5 movie soundtracks, and I'm gonna go with number 5. Kind of 2 different names, I suppose, for it. But it's the Maximum Overdrive soundtrack, a.k.a. AC/DC's Who Made Who record.
Holy
It came out
crap.
in the 80s, same time that the film came out. What you got, basically, is a horror film by
Stephen King.
Stephen King, the man when it comes to horror fiction.
His directorial debut, no less.
Yeah. Which he was like, I'm a big rock and metal fan. I'm just going to put everything AC/DC in this movie, and it worked tremendously.
I'm not even gonna lie. Like Maximum Overdrive made me an AC/DC fan as a kid. Because I mean, the only thing I heard as a kid on the radio was like, Dirty Deeds and TNT, which are great songs. But it was like, it didn't really like. I wasn't invested until I heard like Who Made Who in Maximum Overdrive, and I was just like,
that intro with the Green Goblin truck.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. It's so cool.
So good. And a lot of people hate on that movie for various reasons, but it'll remain one of my favorites.
Oh, it's
soundtrack's
fun.
Huge part of it. It's a very fun
crazy movie. You got to kind of like tune your brain out because like logic just kind of goes away. But like there's some really cool parts, especially soundtrack wise. There's the scene where they're going through like the sewer area of this like diner to go get try to save somebody, and they start playing For Those About to Rock. And it's just so cool. Like they set it up. Everybody's like makes fun of Stephen King was like high on cocaine when he was directing this.
Well, he most certainly was.
He was.
My God,
but there were some moments there that were pretty genius. I mean, if you really take a moment and step back, it was really cool. So
yeah, really good.
That's a really good one.
Whole soundtrack, and even like the little all the murder scenes where Angus does all the weird stuff on its guitar and stuff, all the picking and stuff. It's really sick. Sick.
It's basically a greatest hits album of AC/DC songs.
It is.
So it stood the test of time. I mean, even if you're not a fan of the movie, the soundtrack's great.
Yeah, so go check out the soundtrack.
Definitely.
Like I said, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, whatever,
Absolutely.
check that out. So that's my top 5.
Okay.
And, heading over to you, sir.
All right, this is Sean. My number 5 is actually a movie I don't necessarily think is great. It's fun, but the soundtrack has just stuck with me for years because it was just flawless, and that is the Escape from L.A. soundtrack.
Oh.
Not Escape from New York, Escape from L.A., the little-known sequel to John Carpenter's first movie, which, say what you will, it's fun. There's some really outdated parts of it, but it's fun. It's Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell can't do any wrong in a movie.
We were just talking about that. Kurt Russell does everything awesome. To Death Proof, to whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, he's playing Snake Plissken, who's just...
Snake is a badass.
He's the epitome of cool.
He is.
This soundtrack was like a pretty good metal soundtrack for the late 90s.
It had some great hard rock, some great metal, and
one of my favorite bands when I was growing up was Stabbing Westward, and they got the first song on the album, and it sets the tone. It's a really kind of like downbeat, badass song.
Yeah, Stabbing Westward, such a great band, and that track on there
Yeah.
is so great.
And you know, you got some White Zombie, you got Tool.
Tool,
got,
that Tool song is classic off one of their earlier
Yeah.
records, and it's so good.
You've got Sugar Ray actually kicking ass before they went total Bob.
Sugar Ray back when they used to be a hard rock band. Yeah, when they went pop. Yeah.
And I mean, and then you get some really like, okay, I didn't think that person would be on the soundtrack. Well, you got Tori Amos, and that's just
it's
cool.
really like left of center, but it works. It's
Yeah.
a good song.
I mean, and I like a lot of Tori Amos' stuff, so like putting it in there, I was like, okay, right on. You're kind of like hitting right in my wheelhouse on this, and it's a good soundtrack. Again, like, they're not necessarily a lot of scenes in the movie I remember like with music from the soundtrack in it, but I do remember like the movie ends with like Snake doing something cool, and then they break right into White Zombie's The One, which is just harsh.
It's good.
Yeah,
such a. Now I am going to have to disagree with you. I do like the movie.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't like the movie.
Well, yeah.
It's not Escape from New York.
No, that one is
Totally.
absolutely. But yeah, soundtrack is awesome. It's got Clutch on there too.
Yeah.
And, oh my god, man. So much good. And you can't go wrong with Clutch. Clutch is,
Yeah,
great
I mean,
classic band,
and if
so.
you're into like '90s music, you got, again, like Sugar Ray, Butthole Surfers. I mean,
Butthole Surfers,
it's
another
really
great
good.
one.
If you need, even if you're not a fan of the movie, like just you
Check
want a
out the
good metal
soundtrack.
soundtrack, damn,
Yeah.
it's good.
And it's something, I realize we're kind of getting, maybe I'm kind of getting ahead of it, but we're lacking in soundtracks today. There's not a lot of good music in movies or anything today. Soundtracks back in the day used to be so good.
There were times where you would find the soundtrack before a movie came out, and that would decide whether or not you were going to go see the movie, because
like, that is in there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I'm pretty sure I listened to the Escape from LA soundtrack before I saw Escape from LA, and it definitely influenced my opinion of the movie.
Right. So, good stuff.
So
yeah,
that
soundtrack.
That's a great one. So that's my number 5.
Hell yeah, man. Oh yeah, number 5. All right, my number 4 on top 5 movie soundtracks. And by the way, leave comments at the bottom of the video or whatever. Let you know, your top 5 or whether you agreed or your favorite songs off the soundtrack or whatever. Or
yes.
The part in the movie where the song fits in. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so awesome where it fits. My number 4. It's the Predator soundtrack.
Hell yes.
I mean, no metal, nothing like that, orchestra and whatnot. But dude, still listening to it and watching Predator with that, it still gives me goosebumps.
Dude, I mean, even as a little kid, like we used to play. We would be on the playground, and yeah, I shouldn't have seen Predator at like 8, but all my friends did too. And I just remember like we'd be playing, and inevitably one of my friends would be running around behind us as we were playing as soldiers fighting the Predator. Somebody would be behind us doing the da-na-na-na-na-na, which was just, I don't know why we had a soundtrack, but it was cool.
I used to do it too. I used to pretend I was a Predator, and my friends, they'd be Dutch and everything. So yeah, it's just the soundtrack fits the atmosphere. When you watch that movie, you really feel like you're there in the jungle. And with that soundtrack, it fits it perfectly. Yeah,
because it's tough and like kind of like cool, like army movie sounding.
Oh yeah,
military beats, but then it goes kind of like tribal.
Tribal, absolutely. And,
it's Mark Silvestri, if I remember correctly.
Alan Silvestri.
Mark Silvestri,
the artist, which is also badass.
My bad. His
soundtracks are always top notch.
And I mean, they brought most of the music from that kind of pops back up in Predators. Predator 2 does like kind of homages.
It has
but
didn't he do Predator 2
I think
as well?
he did.
But he changed it up a little bit because it is a city rather than a jungle.
But the cues are still there. Those music cues that you expect.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on, it's Predator. I'm sure at least most of you listening to this have seen Predator. You know the music, it just fits.
You can't, when you think of him, you can't not think of the music,
Absolutely.
In that jungle. So yeah, that's definitely, my number 4.
Very good one.
Awesome.
My number 4 is actually the Batman soundtrack by Prince for 1989's Batman. Again, I was huge into Batman before I even saw the movie because I was about 8. and I found out there's a Batman movie, and my mom got a cassette of Prince's
The
Batman.
soundtrack. Yeah.
And man, like, it's 8 songs long, but it's pretty prolific. Again, if you watch the movie, he only really gets 2 of his songs in, Party Man and Trust.
Yeah,
And
which Trust plays during
the balloon scene.
The balloon, when he's throwing the money out and gassing
and that's that's iconic. Party Man I like just a little more because it's the scene where he's in the museum and they're messing up paintings and stuff.
And, cutting up all
as a kid, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, again, as a little kid, I hadn't even seen the movie yet, but I jam out to Bat Dance. Like, it just sounded so cool as a little kid.
That soundtrack is all together, and I listened to that probably about a week ago. I had it jam, and actually, I was playing Call of Duty, and I actually had it put in the background listening to it.
Well, what's really cool is like in the songs, he actually samples like dialogue from the movie.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. And if you actually read, the booklet of it, he writes, like, the songs are actually written from points of view of characters in the movie. So I'm like, that's pretty cool.
So it's almost like it was the movie finished without like the music, and he was sitting there kind of like, okay, this would go here,
right?
The part would fit here, kind of like what they do,
right?
Sometimes.
Well, what he does in the actual booklet is like, I'm trying to think. For instance, like there's a song. The first song on it, I think, is called I See the Future or something, and it just says from the point of view of Batman, and it's his opinion of things, and you're like, if you listen to the lyrics, you're like, that's an interesting take.
Yeah.
But like there'll be other songs where it's like a back and forth. Like there's like a love song on there called Scandalous, where it's like Bruce Wayne and then there's Vicky Vale lines, and it's like them back and forth talking in dialogue, like in the song. Like, that's a very cool way to go about doing a soundtrack.
I always like that when they threw that in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, I was kind of backwards. I went and saw the movie with my parents as a kid. We went to a drive-in. I don't know if I told this, in the podcast yet, but it's one of my fondest, memories as a child. But watching it in the theater, when those songs came up, it was like, this is good music. I didn't know who Prince was, being a little kid, 89, but I didn't know. But I was like, oh, this really fits the scenes. Like, this is awesome. So
I remember as a kid, because I had listened to the soundtrack first, I was slightly disappointed with the movie because I expected the movie would end and Bad Dance would kick in.
Right.
And it didn't. And I was just like, really? That would have been perfect. Why didn't they do that? And even my parents were like, why didn't they play Bad Dance?
Right.
What were they thinking? And, whatever. But it just fit for me.
Sometimes when they have songs that they put on the album for the soundtrack or they write for it, they don't always make it into the film.
Sure.
They say like inspired by or something like that, which
and that's
cool too.
Yeah, that's totally fine. It's just, as a kid, it just popped in my head, the iconic scene, he's like looking at the bat symbol and it's ending. It would just be like perfect to kick right in there.
Like cue that.
But instead we got Denny Elfman's soundtrack, which I'm not gonna deny is great, but
the classic in itself too. So
the Prince soundtrack just stuck with me from being a kid.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's why it's my number 4.
Yeah, great soundtrack. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So my top 3 movie soundtracks is, of course, one of my favorite comic book hero villains, whatever you want to specify them as, and that is the Spawn soundtrack.
That's great, actually, because the Spawn soundtrack is actually my number 2.
Nice. Oh yeah.
So yeah, we can cut them in.
You see, we always have at least one on the list where we like smash it. So that's awesome.
Man, I cannot say enough good about the Spawn soundtrack. I will be the first to admit I'm not a fan of the movie. Like, going back, it's not good. I'm not a huge Spawn fan. Like, when I was in my teens, I thought it was awesome, but kind of grew out of it. But that soundtrack, the concept that it's a metal band with like a techno band.
Techno feel, techno band, techno feel with metal.
Works.
It did. I mean, you had a who's who on there.
Yeah.
I mean, who didn't you have on that soundtrack? You had Manson.
Yeah. You had Metallica.
Yeah, Metallica. You had Slayer on there, doing some samples, Rollins,
Rollins. Again, Stabbing Westward.
Stabbing Westward. Great song.
Yeah.
Filter was on there. Silverchair, that song,
Silverchair,
Spawn. It's like, that's a heavy song, too.
Korn. That was like one of the first
Korn,
times I'd
yeah.
ever heard Korn. I was
Yeah.
like, these guys are kind of creepy, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to see what they're about.
Yeah.
But again, like not huge about the movie, but you know, there is a badass scene where he's like riding a motorcycle and One Man Army by Prodigy kicks in.
Oh yeah, Prodigy too.
Prodigy's so badass.
Man, I remember back in the '90s when Prodigy was like, they're still around,
They're
too, and they're
still
still
around.
big, especially over in Europe. You know where
and
they're
they're
from.
still awesome, actually.
Yeah, they were like at their peak.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and yeah, they had a song in there that was awesome.
Yeah, One Man Army's underrated. Like, especially if you're a fan of like, you know, Breathe or Firestarter, it was right around that time. That's a great song.
Yeah. So that soundtrack, was awesome. You know, I keep hearing that Todd, he's got the script done for a new one, what's actually supposed to be a horror movie.
Right.
Actually supposed to be based on more of like the comic.
Is it bad that I care not about the movie, but in fact, if there's a good soundtrack?
Yeah.
It's like, Todd, I don't care. Do whatever you want with the movie, but
have a good soundtrack.
Get some cool metal bands to work with some cool techno bands and give us another good soundtrack.
Let's do a sequel album.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely. So if they do a new movie, which I hope that they do, and they do it justice, a cool soundtrack.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know,
so
some good bands back on there.
That was my number 2, and that was your number 3.
Hell yeah, man.
So that knocked that one right out.
Right on.
So for my number 3, going back to the whole idea of more of an instrumental soundtrack that just sticks with you, and go figure, another Arnold movie. My number 3 is actually the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack, which is Basil Polidorius.
Nice.
Dude, the Riddle of Steel, like just that pounding rhythm, and you know, you hear it and you just immediately go, okay, there's some dudes in loincloth killing each other.
It's metal for even back then, you know? It's like, you know?
It's just, I hear that, and I mean, I don't know, I've played D&D quite a few times, and I've been like the soundtrack guy, and you know, a lot of D&D games they put in like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack or something like that. I would always be the one that if I was in charge of the soundtrack for the night, you could pretty much bet I was going to drop the Conan soundtrack and just let it roll the whole night. And it was, of course, going to be the night that we killed a bunch of people.
Nice.
Because it's battle music, man.
Yeah, that's a movie and soundtrack I haven't like listened to and watched for a while. So I need to like go back and revisit that. But so good.
What's funny is Basil Polidorius. We forget this guy, but he is responsible for Conan, RoboCop.
Oh, RoboCop 2, yeah.
And Starship Troopers. He did the soundtrack to all 3 of those. And they all have this like really iconic music that you hear it and you go, "Oh crap, yeah, that works."
They have that battle sound too.
Yeah.
And just in their own way, just so good.
Yeah, there's a line of music. I don't remember what the name of the song is officially, but there's a line of music where in the movie there's like riders on horses that are coming in, and it's Conan's like praying to Crom, and it's so metal because like the music's like gearing up and he's talking to Crom, and then you see these riders and the music kicks in. He's like, "Then the hell with you," and then he like goes into this huge fight, and it's
nice.
It's so brutal.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch that.
So
I need to go back and watch that. I need to find the soundtrack too and download it and.
I think they have it on Spotify. So
It's sweet. I'll put it on and I'll probably play some Black Ops or something. Put some like pounding stuff on, run around killing people.
Do like I did and play Skyrim while listening to the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. It's ridiculous how hardcore. You just start killing random villagers and just going nuts.
Right on. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Totally.
Good stuff.
All right, so that was my number 3, and my number 2 is done. So
number 2. All right, so my number 2 of movie soundtracks, and this one is one that I've listened to so many times. I can't even express the words on this soundtrack, and so many great bands on it, and that is the Last Action Hero soundtrack. So true to me. Actually, the first time I heard Megadeth is on that soundtrack, and I was like, I'm sold. Like, I'm gonna go buy the albums now. I was like, Mom, can I have Countdown to Extinctions? Like, I'll buy it for you.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh yeah. So
see, it's funny that this is not on my list, but I love that soundtrack.
Yeah.
And what was really cool was I was in 6th grade when The Last Action Hero came out, and we had just gotten a local rock station called Z Rock,
Mhm.
and it was only around for like 2 or 3 years. But
Right.
the whole thing was that they had this whole promotion going with like the Last Action Hero was coming out, and they were like,
Mhm.
well, since it's coming out, they would every week, like for a week, like the week that it was coming out, they would play another track like all
Off
day.
the album?
It would be like, you know, every hour on the hour, we're gonna play this song, and like
That's pretty cool.
the first one they did was Big Gun by AC/DC.
AC/DC.
I was just like, I heard that as a kid. I was like, holy crap, this movie's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's a great like opener too for
Yeah.
a soundtrack. It's just like it hits you hard, and it's like this is rocking. In the video for that, I don't know if you've ever seen that video,
Yeah,
but
I have.
Arnold is in it like with the guitar with Angus and stuff, and that's pretty sweet.
But like that,
So-
I remember vividly the Alice in Chains, What the Hell Have I?
So yeah, they do a couple songs. That's one of them. So good. Their songs are so good.
And of course, Angry Again by Megadeth is so cool.
Oh, dude, it's like and that scene in the movie when they bust into that, because they actually go into the movie where they're at the mansion and whatnot.
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet. So so many great bands. Yeah, the Anthrax was on there too. You had Queensryche, you know.
What's funny?
Tesla, so.
What's funny is I haven't listened to it in so long, and Richard actually just burnt me a copy of it, so I'm probably gonna listen to that on the way home.
It'll get y'all pumped up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, Tesla actually does like the theme Last Action Hero, and it's pretty damn sweet.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, I still own my copy on CD actually, and it comes with the golden ticket. So I was like, I want to take it out, rip it, and try to jump into my TV.
Yeah,
Let's see how that'll go.
People burn on that movie, but it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's different.
It's goofy, but it's supposed to be. You know?
Yeah, it's a different type of action movie. The only problem I had with it as a kid was it was like 2.5 hours long. It was a long.
It was a long movie. Yeah.
Because when we were kids, like our movies weren't more than like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had like a 2.5 hour movie, you're like
my
start
attention
looking at
span,
your clock.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking over here. It's like I gotta pause this, go out and play,
Yeah.
do something else, come back to it.
That was a movie. If you had it on VHS, you watched like the first half, and then you cut it, went and played, and came back later
came
when
back
you were
and watched
tired.
it. Yeah.
So
So good, so
Yeah.
good. And you know who wouldn't want to jump into their favorite like action movie or their own movie for that matter with some badass music? So.
me, because I'd probably just get killed. I immediately
Well-
jump in and just headshot, done.
Well, if you're Jack Slater and Jack Slater 4, you know, bullets just bounce off of you and jump off a cliff.
Okay, valid. Still, my luck, I'd be the rookie.
You'd be the kid where it's just like, why is this happening to me? Dynamite and shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So,
All right. So that was your number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
And we already did my number 2. So.
All right. Moving on to your number 1.
So my
sir.
number 1, and what's really funny is I'm pretty sure that we share a number 1.
Uh-oh. This is awesome.
This is probably my favorite movie of all time, and the soundtrack was the first CD I owned. And to this day, it is still by far my favorite soundtrack and one of my favorite albums of all time, and that is the Crow soundtrack.
Yes, my number 1 as well. What can we say? The soundtrack is perfect. The movie is perfect. He died during the making of the movie. He was a fan of the music. He was a fan of the comic book. You know, Brandon Lee, of course, we're talking about.
There is a scene. There are 2 scenes in that movie that stick out music-wise for me, and the first one is the first track on the album is "Burned" by the Crow or by the Cure.
By the Cure, yes.
And the scene, he's basically getting ready for war, and it starts with him like just punching his fist into his mirror, just getting angry about the fact that he's dead. He was killed. He's coming back from the dead to get vengeance for his girlfriend, and this music starts kicking in, and he's like putting the makeup on, he's putting his shirt on, and just getting ready to go kick the crap out of some people.
He's getting ready to go hunting.
Yeah,
vigilante. So
it's so good.
Perfect music for it. Yeah, that scene that you're talking about where he punches that mirror, it's like he's just losing it, and he's trying to gather himself all back together, and he's getting into it.
I guess goosebumps every time I watch the scene.
It's a great the Cure was perfect for that.
Yeah, that song was perfect. I don't know if they wrote it for the movie or if it was something that they just
You know, I am not sure. We should go back and check
Yeah.
that out, but
Like, there's
but
that.
it fits so perfectly.
And then, like, shortly after in the movie, there's the scene where he's running from rooftop to rooftop, and Dead Souls by Nine Inch Nails kicks in.
Oh God, yeah.
Which was
where he goes to Fun Boy, right?
Yeah, he's
Where he
he's going after
He's going after knives.
Tintin.
Tintin, yes, thank you.
But yeah,
leaps off the building.
He's just going to town, and it's so cool because it's got like that driving rhythm by
Trent
Trent Reznor.
Leaping, yeah.
Which, as a kid, I had no clue that was actually a cover of a Joy Division song, but
yeah, which James O'Barr is a huge Joy Division fan.
I think actually the lyrics for that song are actually in the original like graphic novel or something.
I believe so, yeah.
But it's just like. And the fact that the movie is all about the soundtrack too, like there's two bands. I know My Life with Throw Kill Cult's in at one point.
In the club.
I can't remember the other band that's playing. I can think of the song.
It's the one with the chick singer.
Yeah. I can't think of the name of the band.
I actually have the soundtrack on the shelf, but I'd have to pull it out real quick.
But it was. I mean, it was a movie. The main character is a guitar, guitarist in a band.
Nice rock and roll, guitar player that gets.
It's very much a movie that needs a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I could easily have just put like Crow City of Angels, even Crow Salvation, because they're all pretty stand-up soundtracks.
Oh yeah, the sequel soundtracks are solid records. They have great bands on there. You got Danzig on there.
Yeah, as opposed to the movies themselves being crap.
The movies, I'm okay with. They're all right, but they're
the
not
second
the original.
one. Yeah, the second one's all right. City of Angels is all right.
Yeah, Iggy Pop in there, which is kind of cool.
Which was funny because originally Iggy Pop was the visual basis for Fun Boy.
And the first one,
James O'Barr had even said he wanted Iggy Pop to play Fun Boy, and it just didn't work with the schedule, so they got him for the second one, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, but absolutely. He did it, and so it was pretty awesome. He
also has a song on the soundtrack to the second one.
He does. I Want to Be Your God live.
No,
right?
I Want to Be Your Dog.
I Want to Be Your Dog. Okay. That confuses me.
Kind of changes the.
Well, because Slayer did a cover of it, and then they called it "I Want to Be Your God." Yeah, of course, being Slayer fashion.
That's nice.
But
it's just like that. It's just a perfect soundtrack in my opinion. There's so many good bands.
Yeah, Pantera's on it. They did. What's that song called? The Badge.
The Badge.
It kicks right into. Dude, that Helmet song. That. So good.
I can't even remember the name of the. I think it's Sisters of Loving Grace.
Yes.
Do Golgotha Tenement Blues, and like I hear that, and I just every time it comes on, if I'm around with my friends and it starts kicking in with like the guitar riff, I just immediately go, "Here, Fun Boy," and I like want to get
light bulb.
Yeah, I want to get a light bulb and like roll it against my forehead like a jackass. It's so iconic.
Take your guitar and leave. Go.
Rollins with Ghost Rider. Which, to this day, even listening to it back then, I was just like, no, wait a minute. Did they tell him about the wrong vigilante superhero? Because he sounds like he's talking about Ghost Rider.
That song they should have put in the Ghost Rider movie.
But it would have been wasted.
Yeah,
because that's a terrible movie.
Yeah. Which actually, he did two versions of that song, actually, of Ghost Rider. He did the one on... I have to let you listen to it sometime, but it's pretty funny. Yeah, there's two versions. But as much as we talk about Rollins, in the podcast, it's got Rollins in it. What more do you need there?
That was the first time I had ever heard Rage Against the Machine. I was like,
Rage Against the Machine
I don't know what I think of these guys, and it wasn't. Yeah, of course. Later on, I was like, good God, these guys are awesome. But
doing something new and crazy and awesome. But it was like this is different. Who is this?
Yeah. But, and that's what I always loved about the Crow soundtracks. Is they always found a way to get like new and interesting bands in there.
They did. They put, even if you go to City of Angels, they put White Zombie in there with a.
They were kind of known. That was like a big song.
They did.
Actually, in City of Angels was like it was the second time I heard Korn. I was like, whoa. Korn.
Yeah, that's a good Korn song too.
Yeah,
good Korn song too. They did the Deftones in there and. Great stuff. And I'm hearing that they're gonna still go ahead with the remake for the movie, and let's get a great soundtrack for that.
Yeah, that's one that definitely, again, if you're gonna do a movie, at least give us a decent soundtrack. I might let you have a buy.
let's do some more current rock, metal, whatever sort of bands, alternative bands, but let's put some good stuff in there. I don't know. It's tough.
What was really funny was when I initially heard about The Crow, I knew it because they were playing the song by Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, the Big Empty. Oh,
Big
I forgot
Empty,
about that song
which
too. I was just
is kind of like
that.
the song everybody remembers from that.
Oh yeah.
And I'll be honest, it was the reason I wanted the soundtrack initially for Christmas, because I was like, that's a really good song.
Oh yeah.
And it turns out it's probably like my least favorite song on the album because everything else is just so good.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's actually my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song too.
Yeah.
And I can listen to that song over and over again. But yeah, so many great. I don't think there's a bad song on that album.
To this day, if I'm playing in a role-playing game, again, like D&D, this is more for like playing Vampire or like something. If there's ever a fight,
right,
9 times out of 10, we'll put on After the Flesh by My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult, because it just fits for a ridiculous fight.
Yeah, that's a good one, where he's in that club fighting and that music, they're down there jamming and stuff. And
somebody goes flying through the skylight and they all freak out and run away. Yeah. That's pretty funny. A great way to have a cameo by the band.
Oh yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, such a good soundtrack.
But yeah, we could go on and on about the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's that good. And I'm going to just say out loud, we had timed this, and we still have 3 minutes before my warning was going to go off on my phone.
Trying to cut it a little short. But
yeah, we did good. So this is, we're looking at like less than 40 minutes.
So how do you, since we kind of covered it, do you want to talk about maybe some of the other ones?
Honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions.
Sure.
Like we could have done Lost Highway.
Lost Highway is a really good soundtrack.
That's a great soundtrack.
That was the first time I heard Rammstein. They're one of my favorite bands of all time.
So good. I'm going to even say, this just kind of randomly popped in my head because I had this soundtrack, the first Matrix soundtrack.
Oh yeah, that was a really
that had
good
Rammstein
one.
On it, had Deftones, had Manson on it.
Yeah, that's a really good one, actually.
That was a great record.
Yeah, that's a totally good one. Let's see, what other ones? Lost Highway, yeah, damn.
I'll say Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, that's classic.
Bill and Ted's a good one.
I'll even say Bogus Journey, too, because that had some killer songs on it.
If you're going on that kind of like stream of like comedy metal, Airheads had a really good soundtrack.
I still have my Airhead soundtrack, which I'll have to burn you a copy of that,
I've got it, actually.
Oh, do you?
I already have that one, so I'm good.
Nice.
I gotta say, like Clerks and Mallrats had some great like alternative soundtracks. Kevin Smith
in there.
Kevin Smith always has good music.
Yeah, he always puts some good stuff in there.
Tarantino movies like Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, going back to we were talking about Death Proof because we were talking about Kurt Russell with Snake or whatever, but the Death Proof soundtrack is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It has some good stuff on there.
Pulp Fiction was really good. Kill Bill 1 and 2 are really good.
Absolutely.
But that goes without saying. It's Tarantino. He's gonna put out an amazing soundtrack. He puts
some good. Yeah.
He's one of those guys that's all about his music. So.
God, what else could we go and say? I'm kind of like lost for words now.
Yeah, I mean the Labyrinth soundtrack, just because it's Bowie.
Bowie.
It's pretty great.
I don't know if you ever saw this movie. You probably have. But The Ghost of Mars. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh yeah, wasn't it Buckethead
Buckethead did it with Anthrax actually, and it was all just music.
That was really funny.
And it was a good metal. It was metal with it.
I remember that watching that movie, and I was like, "This movie's kind of dumb, but it has cool like fight scenes, and the music is awesome." So it's like it was almost like watching a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Or like a music video, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a solid soundtrack. I really like that.
Well, John Carpenter's another guy that always puts out a good, solid soundtrack.
And speaking of which, I think he's actually touring right now doing some kind of music or something like that.
That's cool.
Like doing orchestra or something. I'm not sure how he's doing it, but...
well, going to like movies that the soundtrack is like a very big part of the movie for me. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing, yeah.
That dun-dun, dun-dun, just creepy, great.
Yeah.
That's the Alien soundtrack is another really good one.
With the Marines, the marching drums and stuff and all that.
Yeah, totally.
It's good stuff.
It's like neck and neck with Predator, in my opinion.
Yeah,
definitely.
that's a solid one too. Yeah, that's up there. Fright Night soundtrack I really liked.
was the
Of course.
first vinyl I owned.
And like I said, hang on to that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
an
cool.
awesome soundtrack.
Very 80s.
Oh God, and I'm forgetting. This could have actually maybe made it on my top 5, but the Highlander soundtrack.
Oh, man.
Queen did the Highlander soundtrack. Why did I forget that?
Yeah, I
Oh my
mean,
God.
Princes of the Universe, man.
I still get goosebumps when I hear that song. You know,
Again, I just want to beat somebody up and cut their head off every time I hear
listening to
it.
Queen.
Yeah.
I've had the type of band for that.
I've seen nerdy YouTube videos of guys with their Highlander replica swords just like blaring Princes of the Universe and swishing their sword around trying to be cool.
And they accidentally like get themselves in the eye or something like ah.
Actually, that would have been a better video than just 45 minutes of the guy
Just swinging the sword around.
shirtless, swinging the sword around.
Oh, jeez.
Like with Queen on repeat. Like, why am I still watching this?
It's entertaining, but it's not. I have no life.
It's really not.
What am I doing with myself?
It's on random. Like, my friend stole the remote, and I don't know how to change the channel. I'm stuck on YouTube.
Oh God, that's awesome.
Uh,
Yeah, there's so many great ones, and there's ones I'm sure we're forgetting too.
sure. Again, if you can reply with some good ones, we'll give you a shout out, especially if it's something we're just like, smack our heads. Why didn't we think of that one?
It's like, oh man, it's like that could have been top 5.
Yeah.
I
mean, you're not going to beat The Crow with me, but...
No, absolutely not. No, that's too good. That's too good.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
When I took a lot of my CDs in to trade in, and I still have a good majority of them, but that was one I would never part with. I was like, nope.
I'm proud of the fact I still have the original CD I owned when I got my first CD player.
Right on.
Like, I don't have most of my original CDs, but I still have that one, and it still works. It's not all scratched up, surprisingly.
Nice. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good stuff, man. Classic.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I think we got a good time in. We're just a little under 40 minutes, so it's a nice bite-sized episode. We'll see how this one goes. See how many hits we get as opposed to the 2 hour and 40 or the hour and 20.
Mm-hmm.
And again, your feedback is always appreciated.
Always welcome. Hit that like, subscribe. Let's get some comments. We'll post things about how to follow us. So hit us up and all that. And this has been fun. Like I said, episode 3. This has been really fun. We got tons more lists. We were just brainstorming about and.
We definitely have some guests locked down for future episodes. So
getting some of our buddies and stuff on here, and who knows where the conversations will go and how far they'll stray away, and and all that stuff.
Regardless, I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So I hope you're along for the ride with us.
All right, so how are we going to end this one? Are we gonna do Stay Frosty again, or?
Well, it kind of takes away if you're like expecting me to do it. I don't. I
kind of like I'll be back.
I have performance anxiety.
I just can't handle it.
Or we could. We're always like going back to aliens. Marines, we are leaving.
Game over, man. Game over. That's great, man. Well, some damn fool accusing you to being the best. It's totally going off on the movie, but all right.
Get to the chopper!
Austrian Death Machine. We need a 3rd album. He's out of jail now.
Talking about his dead wife, or the wife he wants dead. I'm sorry.
The new one he's married. If he's listening to this, no hate though. I love the music, so I really hope there's new music coming. So
yeah, rock on.
But all right, so signing off. We'll have intro, outro, awesome. Breakdown. This is Richie saying, have a metal whatever day this is for you when you're listening to it, and inspire and
rock the hell on. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Later, peeps. Bye.